Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the Developing Dads podcast. This is episode number 70. 70, Neil, which is, again, still blowing my mind.
70 weeks.
70 weeks, I know. It's and like we discussed in the last episode, like that whole no one ever gets past 21 episodes in effect. Like 90% fail or 99% podcast fail at episode 21. We're kind of smashed through that, which is kind of nice. Yes, it is episode number 70. Our kind of topic today is going to be talking a little bit about balancing work life versus personal life as a dad. So trying to, navigate all of this stuff that you essentially accumulate as you age and decide to do, like buying a house and looking after kids and being a husband.
Having a career. Building a company.
And trying to drink beer with your mates and be normal. Not easy, but we're gonna try and dissect it to some extent. I first of all have to apologise because Neil does sound like he's smoked about 60 cigars. I don't know what's wrong with him. I think he's just infected with the usual mix or cocktail of kiddie sniffle disgustingness when they go to school or do anything. Because I think I've been ill for about every month for this year so far.
Yeah, like there's probably not a week that goes by where you don't have like a sniffly nose or some block of nose or sore
it's
head.
Great, have kids, right? Cost you loads of money, you got no money in your bank account, you have no time left, you don't sleep very well, and then you get ill all the time. Whereas our unencumbered friends, gentlemen who don't have any kids, they're planning trips to Vegas,
Indeed.
Well, we usually start our podcast, the big reason why we do this podcast is that me and Neil catch up at least once a week and we talk about all sorts of things. Sometimes we don't actually talk about all of the things on the podcast. Sometimes they're left for not necessarily the ears of the public. But we do start with the general question of like, how are you? So what have you been doing, Neil? Have you been on holiday or you've just been lazy, aren't you?
So we're back from holiday, but the kids went on holiday. They went up to the northeast of Scotland with their grandparents. So I've had a kid-free week, or kid-free like 4 days.
My God.
Which has just been mad, like been so nice. Just, yeah.
Just give them up. You don't just want to just like sell them. And then...
Well, they came back yesterday and it was just like that smack in the face of like, it's so intense. It's like full on. But when they're not here, we obviously miss them. But you realise that like, so as a family of 5, our washing machine's on once a day, our dishwasher's on twice a day. There's just always hoovering, always tidying up to do, always toys to tidy away. But like, there's none of that for 4 days. So yeah, that was nice. Rebecca and I got some nice evenings out, just like nice walks, went for meals, just spent some good quality time together. And then I decided, and I think this is where this kind of cold things come from, I decided to run 15 miles on Friday, which took it out of me a little bit. So I kind of felt fine after it, but then I had a sleep, and then yesterday I woke up just sounding like this, feeling pretty rough, feeling sorry for myself. And yeah, our car broke down, which is always it's a low light, definitely not a high light, but I was taking Isla swimming was it yesterday? What day is it today? It was Friday. I was taking Isla swimming and pulling out of a junction, pulling out of a busy roundabout, and the car just completely died. Like there's nothing, no lights in the dashboard, no hazards could go on, absolutely nothing. And here's me sticking out in a roundabout, Isla freaking out. And loads of people tooting at me. It's like, put your hazards on if you're broken down. Literally, the car had no power. So anyway, waited 2 hours for the rescue man to come. Turns out it was just a dead battery. Battery got replaced and the car's fine. But that 2 hours was a stressful 2 hours. And car batteries, I don't know if you've ever had a car battery, Gordon, replaced.
No.
250 quid.
Really?
For a car battery.
Really?
Yes.
Car battery's like £100.
Not if you've got like a start-stop motor and a big family, like 7-seater, you need a big battery. So
great.
Yeah, who knew? So yeah, I mean that's kind of my. And then I went for a cycle today with a friend on the mountain bikes, which was nice, round a loch. Probably shouldn't have done that because I feel pretty rough. And I'm in London next week, for a few
So
days.
it sounds like having a whale of a time, Neil. You're really recommending the dad life to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the 4 days were lovely, but I'm now suffering because I ran 15 miles and just smashed my body.
Maybe this is like all of the time that you had with the kids. That was just suppressing some sort of like disease that you were currently experiencing, and then suddenly it decided to switch off, and you sit down. You're like, gonna relax now, and then you just become a rotten mess of disgustingness.
So Rebecca thinks that you like kind of adrenaline takes you through life, and then when you do finally get a break, you get sick. Is that a thing? I don't know. I don't necessarily believe it, but Rebecca seems to think that she gets a bit ill every time there's like downtime, and she can relax and have longer sleeps. And yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. Not a clue. It could just be chance.
Yeah. Anyway, how are you doing, Mr. Greenhorn?
Yeah, I think I'm all right. Again, I'm trying to work out like what I've actually been doing. Like, when did we last talk? When was our last pod? Like last Sunday.
Yeah, I've been doing it like every
All right.
Sunday now because we just can't work it out.
Again, it kind of comes into that thing where, you know, March in particular was kind of not a sad month, but it was kind of like a very up and down month when it comes to like business and just a feeling, I guess, of running a business where you think you're doing everything right and everything winning, and then one minute you think the world is imploding and everybody hates you and nobody likes you and you're not making any money and you're just gonna have to go and get a job, you know. And that's what March was. And leading into April, there are just kind of some opportunities that have just basically come along, you know, because you can't really predict this sometimes, that have, you know, added nicely to the bottom line. My Greenhorn creative agency thing's growing well. Like, I've got more clients on that. Recruited another editor. He starts tomorrow. So like all of that, this like last week in particular is kind of, you know, it's coming on, right? And I've taken on a couple of more creative mentees, so they're coming as part of sort of the businessy coaching-y thing that I'm doing. So it's just building. And I did my year end is November. It's weird, I know, but it's November. And I did my sort of 6 months, worked out my 6 months sort of income thing, and it looks good. It's healthy. Let's put it that way. It's healthy. So nice. All of those type of things kind of come together, you know. You just start to feel like this month, if everything comes through, again, this month will be my biggest month yet. And it just all feels nice, right? So at the moment, that's kind of been this week, I guess. I had a shoot in Nottingham, so I was up there. Oh, and in Nottingham, if you ever get a chance to go, they have a donut place called Donuts. And you've tried some of the nice donuts that are in London, right? There are some really good ones out there. Donut Time, you know, Crosstown Donuts, all those kind of places. Lovely. They're very good. Donuts are even better. Like, unbelievable donuts. They have this knack of a nice tasty donut that's not kind of, you know, basically just Nutella. Or the kind of the equivalent, like it's not made of like rainbow tears or some bollocks, right? They really focus on getting the dough soft and really light, and they're delicious. They're absolutely delicious. So I had one of them when I was up there because I was doing a shoot for a photo shoot thing, and then the rest of the week, I don't know where it went, but it went, and trying to catch up to do stuff and, you know, whatever else. So that was kind of my week last week, and then this weekend I got very drunk on Friday, like hangover drunk, and just 'cause we had a friend staying from Seattle. He's a DJ, and he was playing in Nottingham actually on Saturday, yesterday, and he was staying with us on Friday night, and it just ended up drinking, just like have a couple of cans. Having a couple of cans and then have dinner, and then you've had half a bottle of wine with dinner, and then have another can, and then, you know, 5 bottles of whiskey come out, and you all have a few drams from that, and it kind of, you know, you're 1 minute you're fine, the next minute you're trying to make eye contact, and you can't really see very well. So that was kind of like my first Saturday morning was my first hangover day morning I've had in this year. I don't think I certainly had like 3 or 4 beers or half a bottle of wine or something like that, but certainly not kind of like that kind of I'm not going to eat until after midday kind of feeling. So that was a bit rough, but thankfully it was my morning off, and Laura took Olivia out to a soft play with a friend, so it was just kind of lie until 9-10 o'clock. But then I would have preferred to have had a productive lie-in rather than a drunk lie-in, because you just don't really get a lie-in, do you?
Yeah, you just feel minging.
And then today we've spent a nice little bit out going to Greenwich with the other uncle, Jack, and Auntie KP, and we just hung out, and I bought some more 35mm film, so I've been taking more pictures of that. So I've no idea what I've taken, which is the kind of classic thing with film photography, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of my week, really. I feel really, really busy. I feel under pressure of lots of stuff. Like, I've got so much editing on my plate. So I'm trying to get through that at the same time. Like, I've got Olivia tomorrow, so then I can't do anything, really, because when I've got her. So she's... we've got little kickers tomorrow. She's playing football, did I tell you that? Signed her up to a football thing.
Oh, nice.
So, really looking forward to that, and it'll be fun.
It's funny seeing them, like, for the first time, just trying to kick a football in a straight line. It's just like, they're like 10, 15 kids running about.
She's really good, in fact. Like, I'm surprised at how good she is, how much she loves it, which is kind of nice. So yeah, that's it really, Neil. Don't have much else to report. Try not to spend money. That'd be nice. All right, so yeah, balancing work life, personal life, as a dad, doing those kind of things. And I think Neil sometimes sends me, we've got this little kind of chat thing where we talk about what kind of topics we want to include, because we it's nice to catch up, but it's also nice to kind of hash out some of the things that we go through and what we enjoy and suffer with at the same time. And I was listening to Chris Williams on Diary of a CEO podcast, and there was a real statistic that I thought was very striking, was that something like 15% of men report having no friends.
Yeah. In middle age, like the age was like between like 25 and 35.
Yes,
or
young men.
Or something.
Like, no friends. And that's kind of terrifying. And I can see how it would happen, though. Because it's so... I don't think I was naive to think that having children would, obviously take up a lot of your time. But I imagine it's very easy also to just fall into the trap of not contacting, because you've got to make an effort, right? You've got to contact your friends. You've got to set something in a diary. You've got to go and see them. And then you've got the pressure of, like, if I'm not spending time with my family, then what am I doing? And usually it's going to be work, right? It's going to be earning money, because you need that to do something with. And then outside of it, I think you'll often really, really assess, like, what is this? How is this benefiting me? And if it's a friend that you're kind of like, on the fence friend, where they sometimes cancel last minute, or they expect you to pay the bill, or, any other number of things, then you're probably just less likely to want to spend time with them. We've got loads of friends. There's loads of people like that. I don't think people have close connections that are any more than about 3 or 4 or 5 people. So, yeah,
and I think coming to the realization of that is good, because I went up through a period of, how old was I? Maybe late 20s, early 30s, and I was like, I could probably count on one hand how many close friends I've got, and that is okay, because that is kind of the norm. Like, you see these kind of, I don't know, pictures of people you used to go to school with, and there's like 15, 20 of them in this one picture, and they're all going to the pub getting smashed. Are they really close friends? Like, do they have your back when when shit hits the fan? Probably not. So yeah, I think the realization of, like, it's okay to have a handful of close friends. You don't necessarily need to have 10, 15, 20 people.
No, and I don't know how people would do that. I don't know how I'd do that. I don't know how I'd have 15 friends. Yeah. No idea. Not a clue. I mean, it's just it just struck me as that 15% of men report having no friends. Is actually quite sad, but I can also see how that happens, generally speaking, because, like I said, the life, you just gets busy, and you also just end up prioritizing other things. And
I wonder why women generally have bigger friend circles. Because if I think of Rebecca, she's got, I'd say more closer friends than me, and my work colleagues. She's always very social.
I think there was again, anything I say, I'm willing to be corrected on. I'm happy to have my mind changed, but this is just a thought out there. The old idea, and this kind of comes from the whole marriage and how marriage was kind of structured, where men often took like the power aspect from finances and property, and they owned stuff like material items effectively. And the power that women possessed was the society building, the social building. They would have more of a gathering of friends of whatnot, or they'd have about stuff more than the man would know about stuff. Like they would be involved in all sort of the community-based things. So I feel like the differences between men and women are very evident in that, where, even in fitness, more women, like the classes in gyms will often be dominated by women, like the old school kind of body pump and all that kind of thing are generally going to be women that go to that. Whereas men tend to just be quite solitary in their training, 25 to 35 plus probably at least. They'll train on their own. They don't train with friends. They don't train in groups. So
yeah, you're right.
I feel like that's just the difference between men and women. They're just more sociable than men, because perhaps there's some element of that where there's that's where their power lies, because they can talk and find out things and do stuff, whereas we were more about having a utility of brawn and doing stuff like that, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair. So I guess that leads us on to, so you've got your kind of personal life, your friends to juggle, you've got your home life, your kid, and then you've got your professional career, and it's trying to fit all those things in. So have you got any, I guess, how do you manage it? What's your first thing that you try and...
I don't think I do manage it very well, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
The only way that I do manage it is taking the lead. Like I don't wait for someone else to message me and say, "Hey, do you fancy going for dinner?" Because I just think that's a self-defeating prophecy. Like it's not people. Most people don't make the first move, because not in a negative way. Like they're not doing that, but because they don't want to bother you. Because they know you're busy, they know you've got a kid, they know you're doing stuff, you've got work, and there's lots of things that are going on. So I feel like I don't manage it very well, but when I do manage it, it's more forthright. It's more, hey, what's up? Like, do you want to go for dinner next week? And not taking the kind of, sometimes also the idea, there's the more negative side where people are like, I'm always the organizer. I couldn't give a flying sausage. Like, if I'm going to be that person, if I'm going to be that person in a relationship, then I'll be that person. Because the asymmetrical upside is so much better. Like, because when I hang out with them, we talk about stuff that's outside of, like, my wife, my kid, like, my family. I got friends that are very unjudgmental, that also are able to offer me advice and feedback and all that kind of thing in a very safe environment. It's a good thing for me to do. So I want to be that person that orchestrates it. So, yeah, like, I don't think I'm very good at it, but I know that I tend to just be like, I don't worry about if they're busy or not, or if, I'm intruding on their time or whatever else, because, again, we're all big boys and girls, like, we can decide for ourselves. So, yeah, that's how I do it, I guess.
Yeah, it's fair. Like, I would say out of my friendship group, I'm definitely the organizer, and sometimes it feels like, are they just saying yes because I keep asking them? But then when I'm with them, and like when we're in the pub or when we're going on that bike ride or going on that run, yeah, like we're both getting a lot out of it and we're both enjoying it. But I'd say if I look at me and Rebecca as well, I would say I'm the organizer in terms of our relationship. So I'll always plan date nights, and Rebecca's done a few kind of surprisey things and stuff, which is great. But I'm okay being that guy that, I don't know, thinks about our time and plans things, especially with the kids and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. It's. It's, I don't know if it comes from that kind of entrepreneurial thing that maybe I have, where I'm looking for a level of opportunity. I'm not really looking on the downsides of what's going to happen. I just tend to be like, let's go and do this thing because it's fun.
It's going to benefit.
Because it does.
And I was going to say, I even try, I don't plan Rebecca's social gatherings, but I definitely persuade her. I'm like, oh, why don't you just go for a walk with a friend, or grab a meal with a friend, or go out at night. Like, I'm always the one that tries to instigate it, and I feel that works both ways, because, or it helps me because I don't feel guilty going out, but also Rebecca gets time. Rebecca gets to take her time away from the house.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think being that partner to push them to organise things is good as well.
You know, because you can't you can't sit there and say I'm lonely or I don't have any friends.
Yeah,
Like what are you doing about it? Like, I get it if 15% of men report to not having any friends, but if they moan about it and they're like I don't have any friends, it's like, well, it genuinely it's in your hand. Like, go and join a fucking club. Go and join a football team, or go and get involved with some of your work colleagues, sort of stuff. Or I don't know, just like do something. You know, message a mate that you haven't seen in a while and be like, "Hey, bro, what are you up to? You want to go for a beer?" But what I tend to do actually is I'm not one for like group gatherings. It's not really something that like I'm not part of like big WhatsApp groups or whatever else and that kind of thing, because I guess I didn't go to school here, so most of my friends are from like former work colleagues, so they tend to be spread around a little bit. So I don't tend to do group gatherings. It tends to be just like individual dinners or going for a drink, or it'd be rare if there was like 2 or 3 or 4 of us turned up to do something. Whereas actually, I made an example would be like I made friends with Laura's maid of honor's husband, Harry. And then when I went on his stag do, I made friends with 2 other of those guys. And we all tend to like meet up together. That's like our thing. We don't tend to meet up individually very often. So I guess that's a little bit different. But yeah, when you talk about that instigating thing, for me, that I did that with them. Because I'd be like, hey lads, do you fancy going for a drink? We all went for a drink. We all caught up, like found out about each other, caught up with each other. And then it was like after that, we just started suggesting playing poker or whatnot. And again, I tend to nudge it quite a lot more because it's fun.
Yeah. There's some a weird stat that like the older you get, like in your 60s, 70s, if you're retired and you don't have a social circle or you don't go out there, you're higher risk of is like dementia, Alzheimer's.
Well, one of the strongest correlators to things like heart disease, for example, is how sociable you are. Because if you see there's a book called The Blue Zones, and there's like 5 areas in the world with the highest concentration of centenary old people. And it's all sorts of stuff like drink red wine every so often and eat a Mediterranean-esque diet, or not very gluttonous and low processed food, and
have a siesta.
Maybe like a sleep. They don't smoke. They exercise reasonably regularly, or they're like more of a laborious manual labor job. But one of the big ones is like they're sociable. They have quite large social structures.
Yeah, big community.
And that's it. It's just so important, And I remember this is kind of a bit morbid and deep, but I think my greatest fear in life is dying alone. And I used to kind of think it was me, at sea, falling overboard, and then just dying on my own in the sea, right? Pretty horrible. But actually, it's not that. It's not the fact that me being alone dying somewhere. It's actually, feeling alone. Being in hospital and no one's there to sit with you. Those kind of things.
Come and see you.
To me, that's one of my greatest. That's my greatest fear, and that's something that I've talked to Laura about probably quite a lot, and why we I guess we work on our relationship. Not so much a cliche way, but we work on our relationship because I don't want that. Yeah, I don't want to die alone, and I have to take control of that. So, if that's my fear, then I'm okay that being a driver to make friends.
It can only benefit you. Really, there's no negatives.
No, not having friends. I think friends have a huge benefit of, especially the good ones. I've got a really good friend. He's just a very good person to talk to. Intelligent, rational, smart. Bit pushy sometimes on things, which is nice. Yeah, and that's a good thing, right? And I don't need 20 friends, but I'd certainly want to massage 4 or 5.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. So that's like kind of friendships and how you navigate that. What about your kind of building a business, and how do you not feel guilty when you need to work 80 hours one week? And juggle your daughter, your wife.
It's a hard one because like 3 traits of a successful person, or a I don't know. Do I put myself in that? Maybe. Who knows? But define what success is, I guess. So the 3 traits of, say, a successful person tend to be feeling a lack of sufficiency. So you're insufficient. To the work, like you're not good enough, is one thing.
Yeah.
Kind of quite large goals, and driving towards them, and very conscientious. So they tend to hyper focus, work ethic-y type of thing. And I definitely feel like I display a number of those traits, or have those traits to do something. So I guess I find it difficult to then balance the whole work-life balancey, friendy, family thing. And the problem also is I have a proof of concept. All of the hard work that I've done over the years has resulted in us having a nice house to live in, a comfortable lifestyle. I had a very comfortable lifestyle. So it's like, if I don't work, then we don't have this lifestyle. So I have that horrible confirmation bias. I think I still struggle with it, but I've got better in that I've accepted if I don't work, the sink isn't going to the ship isn't going to sink. Like if I don't work today, I'm still making. I'm still going to make money.
I remember when you were kind of personal training. I think this was pre Olivia. I think you were with Laura probably, but you used to work like 7 days a week.
Oh yeah.
Never really switch you off. You'd come up here for a weekend and you'd still be working.
Yeah, but there's part of me on this, and this is kind of is straying a little bit away from what we're talking about. But at the age of 20 to 30, generally speaking, you
should give it your
all.
And
that was my take, right? It was just like, I'm going to be great at this thing. I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can, and if people think that's unhealthy, then fucking I don't care. Because I enjoyed it. It wasn't something that was making me depressed or sad or upset or whatever else. In fact, it was only but enhancing my life because I was able to go and do and create things and just do some crazy stuff. So there just wasn't a balance. Like I didn't look for balance. I just worked, but that was it. And if Laura didn't really accept that, I'd be like, well, you're not the right person for me.
Yeah,
and I try now to just level it a little bit because I have confidence in my success. Like I feel a bit more able and successful or whatever it is. But now,
so you can't afford to take that.
Yeah, and I still struggle with it. But I think this year in particular, I'm trying to get smarter where I'm leveraging people, the talent of people and the whole person workforce thing, so then I can take time off and not feel like I'm working. I'm just managing, which is not work to me. So yeah, how do you do it? Because I know you've got your 4-day work week, but do you kind of like try and organize stuff? Like, do you have a day in the week because it's like a Friday now, or what do you do?
Yeah, so Fridays I have off now, which is amazing. I think I 90% of the time I manage because my work's very flexible. If I need to go and see my Isla's kind of sports day, or the boys have got like a stay and play time at nursery, I can get time off and do that. So it's more when I get asked to go to London. So like it's short notice. I think it was a Friday or Thursday, and I need to be in London for a few days next week. And Isla, finding that out, she's not a fan of me going away. So that makes it hard, and it's trying to like tell her why I need to do it, and like I obviously want to prioritize her and Rebecca and the kids, but then sometimes things need to give, and I need to earn money. I need to progress in my career, and I need to help this client that I'm working with. So trying to paint that picture to an 8-year-old is a challenge. But thankfully I've got like a supportive wife, and she understands why I need to do it. So there's no real kind of resentment or guilt in terms of me needing to go. It's just something that needs to happen. But when you've got an 8-year-old that is kind of breathing down your neck, like, when are you coming home, or how long are you going for? And it's hard.
Oh, I bet.
Like the boys are like, oh,
yeah.
Fine. But Isla's 8, and she knows that 3 days is quite a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's yeah, that's an interesting balance, and one I haven't necessarily experienced yet because Olivia's coming up to 2, but I still get.
She kind of accepts you're not there.
No,
sometimes.
she doesn't. But it's still I still know what it feels like. And when I go away or I leave for work somewhere and she says, "Bye, Daddy," at the door, that's a pain. That doesn't feel very nice.
Yeah, yeah.
And I also don't, sometimes it can mean that, I leave before she wakes up and then come home when she's in bed.
That's hard.
And that's kind of difficult because we're like busy mates, So I can see how that's probably going to get worse. But then, this kind of part of it now where you have some level of like freedom to be able to work like you do now, whereas previously when you had like kids and babies and whatever else, then it's probably going to be quite difficult for you to go and do like a travel up to London to do something around that. It would have been pretty tricky. But now, because your kids are like 8 coming up to 5, they're going to go to school, they can go to grandma's, there's probably more scope for you to be able to push your career a little bit and then see if it can work, I guess, to see what happens. But I think I'm gonna have to edit this podcast because Neil.
I'm back.
Neil's frozen, or you are back now. Excellent.
That was weird. My Wi-Fi just cut out. But we're here.
I was talking for ages. So if people wonder why I'm maybe waffling for a long time, it's because Neil died on Riverside. It's still this thing, isn't it? This like, why can't Riverside just be perfect?
I know. I mean, we've had a good run at it.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just talking about how you found it easier. I think you found it harder to go away when the kids were young because they require so much more management. Whereas now, I think you're on the kind of that hill, the top of that hill where kids don't need you as much. Rebecca doesn't need you as much. You can now sort of open up your wings and maybe fly off that cliff and go for the next progress within your career, right? You don't have to go through the missionary aspect of missionary position of work where you're just maintaining.
I think you're right. I mean, the boys are really self-sufficient. Isla can now make her. We've gotten to a really good stage actually, where the kids wake up, get dressed themselves, go downstairs, and Isla makes them breakfast. Wow, and that's just such a cool
She got servant.
She loves it though. She gets like a bit of independence and kind of authority, I guess.
Wow,
for them. But so we go down. They wake up at 6:30, and we go down at 7, and they're all fed and watered and dressed.
Wow, she's quite the commander.
She is. Things are definitely getting easier, and it makes me feel less guilty if I need to drop everything and go to London.
Because do you think that, like I was describing, there's that upside now where if you can commit more to work rather than family, then there's satisfaction in the workplace or satisfaction with your career, but also there's potentially an upside of more money, which means you can go on family holidays where the kids will have an absolute blast, for example.
Yeah, and I think it's that realization and that the painting that picture to your wife as well, and getting her to realize that, look, I might need to go out for these pints with the CEO because I like his company, but in the long run, it might help with with a promotion, or there's side effect. And there's been many a time where, not necessarily in this job, but in other jobs where I've been in the office till 5, 6 at night, been offered to go out with some senior leadership. I can't really it's one you could say no if you wanted, but I don't know. I think deals and relationships are made in a pub or in a restaurant. Out in the office. That
old chestnut, the old patriarchal,
But it served me well, and Rebecca supported that.
I think that's where when I was employed last year, that was kind of an interesting point that was brought up. I definitely felt like that. I recognised that thing of face-to-face contact.
Massive,
makes not only a big difference, I feel, in productivity to some extent, but just in this kind of weird subconscious, they're doing something, or you can explain something easier, or the tone's different, or whatever else. But I'm not sure that the younger generation that I was working next to really understood that the old school way still works.
Yeah.
And it does. It just flat out does. So, it's kind of interesting. But yeah, you've got to do what you got to do, because Isla, I know, wants you as a dad to be there all of the time, but she wouldn't have the clothes she has. Or,
Yeah,
but then she
or
doesn't care, really, does she? Crap. Right.
Yeah. But I don't know if I should do this, but I try and paint a contrast with her and say, like, she's got 3 friends, which their dads work. One of them works offshore, one of them works in Ghana, another works in another place. But they're away for like 4 weeks and then 3 months at a time. So I'm like, Isla, that's like 30 nights away. I'm going for 3 nights. So that's like...
Yeah, that still feels like 30 nights to her, though, doesn't it?
I know. But I think it's coming. She's coming around to it. And she realizes that one of her friends' dads is just never home. And that could be reality for some people. And that's what they need to do to pay the bills. That's what they need to do to earn the money. But thankfully, I've got a job that's 90% at home and 10% in the office or travel.
That's very good. I mean, that's one thing as well. I was kind of curious, and I don't know if this actually fits into this conversation, but I was listening to sort of 16, 17-year-old last weekend describing, like, what are they going to do? And part of the discussion they were having was kind of more around the idea of work making them happy than them bringing their sort of enjoyment to a work. So what I mean by that is, if you just choose a career that makes, like, you think you're going to enjoy and it's going to make you happy, I don't know many of those jobs that pay that well.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I don't know. Like, some of them do. So some hobbies, for example, if you become a singer or a dancer or actor or whatever else, like, that's a pretty cool job, or it's a pretty cool pursuit, and you might make it and make loads of money. But I don't think someone who becomes, say, an investment banker goes, I'm going to become an investment banker because it's really fun and it's going to make me happy.
Yeah.
But the side effect of money is probably something that helps. Maybe they're like maths and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's quite interesting that they were kind of discussing or describing jobs that would make them happy rather than, say, pay them well or have good career prospects or, all that kind of stuff. It was generally things that didn't pay very well, probably not very good career prospects. But they were like, yeah, I'd be happy doing that. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, I think there's something, and we mentioned it in the previous podcast a couple of weeks ago where we talked about AI and what it's doing to jobs. But I think there's something to be said to have a job that you, I don't know, like 50% of the time, but it gives you 4 days a week and pays well. Like, I'm okay being miserable for a few days of the week if it means that I can support my family and only work 4 days.
Yeah, so then you discover the work balance, personal life balance, family balance thing, because you get paid enough to not feel like you have to worry about the next bill that's coming in, whether your battery from your car is going to cost you 250 quid. You're also able to pay for experiences because, Bill Perkins Die with Zero, that's kind of part of the thing, but you've got to have cash to do that, right?
Yeah.
And like you say, you could probably survive 3 or 4 days a week not loving what you're doing, but it certainly helps you love the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I do worry about the kind of the snowflake generation.
Careful, Neil. Careful, they'll be listening.
They're looking out for that, like the unicorn startup that just you drink beer at 12 o'clock on every day, and yeah, there's no like they hustle, but they don't really hustle, and they just want to make everything fun.
Yeah, I'd much prefer my mates to make me happy.
Yeah,
than my workplace.
I agree.
I'm not saying that I'd want to do a job that I'd go to work every day and hate. That's not what I'm saying. But if it paid me very well and I was bearing it, then I don't think I have an issue with that. Certainly if it afforded me a good lifestyle and, Laura could pick or choose if she wanted to work or she wanted to raise the kids and stay at home, or if Olivia wanted to send her to private school or any number of these things, or be able to take my mates out for a nice steak or whatever else.
Yeah.
I prefer that than, everyone at my work having the same political view as me and then playing pool and then doing tequila shots on a Tuesday at 11 or getting a nice free warm barista coffee. Like, nah, just put an extra 20 grand in my bank account. That'll be all right.
Yeah. So is there any areas you can see that you need to improve on? Do you think you've got a good work-life balance?
I think so. I think it's never, because it's the thing is you say to me, you say something like, do you have a good work-life balance? but I like work. You know, I like work as much as I like spending time with my friends or spending time with Laura. Granted, those things are probably a little bit higher than work, for example, but I really, really enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that.
I think it's kind of difficult to be like, how do I balance it? So I guess I do, because now I can take one day off a week where I look after Olivia on a Monday. So that's a pretty good balance, right? I work full 4 days, maybe sometimes at the weekend every so often. And like you find me a career that earns what I earn that doesn't do 50 hours a week.
50 plus, like, yeah, 60, 70.
You don't. And I don't work 50, 60 hours a week, every week. Sometimes I have to do more, don't get me wrong. It's not all plain sailing, but it's still not that level, right? So I guess I have a work-life balance now. I definitely wouldn't have had it previously, but for my business turns over to the life that I can lead in terms of seeing Olivia regularly, I definitely feel like we could probably work on like our relationship stuff from a work-life relationship balance, because work and life tend to take much more of a priority, and I put life as like kid care and trying to do stuff, whereas I don't think we have as much private personal time together as we would probably like, because if you think about our previous lives when we were working a lot, all we had to do was maybe spend time with some family, but the rest of the time was kind of ours, right?
Yeah.
The evenings were ours, the mornings were ours, the weekends were ours, whereas the weekends are Olivia's now. You know, the evenings are generally Olivia's now. You know, the mornings are Olivia's. So it is.
Like that. It's challenging.
Yeah. So I'd probably say work-life balance is fine, but work plus life balanced with relationship, probably not so. But I think I accept that at the age of 35, turning 36, Laura has a full-time professional career job and we have a toddler. I feel like that's maybe just how it'll be for the next few years.
Yeah, it's a season you're going through.
That was it. You see, that was the thing I talked to you about, wasn't it? Season.
But yeah, I find myself, like, when somebody asks me what's my work-life balance like, I find myself like comparing myself to the dads that work for 3 months away and stuff like that. And I think if I compare myself to them, I feel like I've got a pretty damn good work-life balance.
Yeah,
I can be there when the kids need me. Occasional trips away, but nothing severe. So yeah,
it is that interesting sort of comparison thing, you know, because I remember I was training this guy who was very senior in JP Morgan, and he was taking a bit of a sabbatical, and he said that morning, he was like, "Oh, I said to my daughter, I'm going to take her to school tomorrow," and she was just like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that. That's unbelievable. Wow. You know, that's amazing." And you know, this guy earns millions a year, right? He's a rich man. But I just don't know if I'd want that sort of work-life balance.
Yeah.
Where
that's exciting, yeah.
Yeah, nah. That's not for me, if I'm honest.
I mean, I've taken Isla to school probably, I could count in one hand the times I haven't in the.
And that's it. Like if you think that's not a good work-life balance, then you know, it's the same for me. I'm taking Olivia tomorrow at 9:45 off to Little Kickers, and I can do that every week if I want to.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
That's a work-life balance. So yeah, I guess I just don't put pressure on myself. And I think if you're a dad thinking about that, where you're like, the thing I'm doing now isn't necessarily aligning with the thing that I want, then I don't know what you do. Like, you got to make a choice, and it's either find a job or a career that allows that, or don't complain about your work-life balance.
It's also like, I don't know, you might be that type of person where you just want money, and you're willing to be a bit selfish, and
yeah, sure,
but that's for you, not for us, or not for me.
I don't know. I'm quite enjoying both. Make all the money and have all the time. So yeah, I think I've got that nailed. But yeah, the relationship thing, I think, is the bit that's hard, because I've been trying to squeeze in some times with some friends recently, and because of probably me being disorganized, but equally it's just been a bit of a challenge to get friends in. So I think not just from a me and Laura perspective, but I think I need to be a bit more upfront about just booking stuff in the diary and then having it as a non-negotiable kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be honest. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Good podcast, Neil. I enjoyed that one.
Good. Yeah, me too. I'm glad we like. It was touch and go for me. I was like, I've got man flu. Do I just do it in the hotel room tomorrow night? Maybe.
And that's fine. So, are we going to do a podcast while you're down, or are you just completely and utterly rammed?
I haven't even like, believe it or not, I'm just down for a 1 hour meeting.
Wow. So how many days are you down for? 3 days?
Yeah, well, I'm back Wednesday night. So,
All right.
I haven't really I was organised on Friday, so I haven't really planned what we're doing.
All right. Tell me then.
But we'll need to maybe get face to face.
All right. That'd be nice, Neil. Come and see your brother. Rather than just working. Hey, what about that work-life balance? Your work-brother balance.
On that
All
note,
right.
are you signing it off?
Well, I'll sign it off. Yeah, sure, Neil. I actually just want to congratulate you, Neil, for pulling your finger out. Right.
Oh, Instagram.
Yeah. If anyone hasn't seen yet, anyone who's our 3.5 listeners to get to this point of the pod, if you haven't noticed already, Neil has actually started posting reels on our Developing Dads Instagram. So if you'd like to go and check out some snippets of previous podcasts, then by all means go and check out Developing Dads on Instagram. It is just an absolute wave of just amazingness. I think, Neil, you could just quote us for years off the back of that. We're also on YouTube, so I upload these episodes to YouTube so you can watch us rather than, say, listen to your ear holes or whatever platform you use, which if it's outside Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you're a bit of a weirdo. Are we on? We're not on Twitter, are we, Neil? Don't think so. Nah.
No idea. Someone asked if we're on Google Podcasts, and I was like,
yeah,
we are.
Yeah.
But who uses that?
Yeah, I know, it's weird, isn't it? But yeah, that's kind of it. Every Monday, we tune into us and what we're saying. But if you've got any questions or queries, or I don't know, fancy commenting on our patriarchal male white views on anything, then by all means, join us. We'll hear them. We'll hear the comments. That's it, really, Neil. Anything else I've missed out?
No. What sterling? Yeah, sterling outro.
Thanks, Neil. All right, guys. We'll see
Cheers.
you in the next one. Cheers.
Bye.